How'd you get in the Barstool? Didn't you do like the American Idol style?
Yeah, I did the first season of Barstool Idol. I had been doing stand-up and tutoring for like 6 years. And I was just doing, open mics and then check spots and then
that Harvard degree would probably made a good living with the
I'm not even kidding you. People are like, imagine graduating from Harvard only to be a comedian or only be a personality at Barstool. It's like nothing could have been more valuable to my career trajectory, because I got out of school, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I'd done some stand-up my senior year, loved it, and I was like, all right, fuck it, I'll move to New York and give this a shot for 2 years, and if it doesn't work out, I'll take myself more seriously or whatever. And I quickly got a job tutoring, and I was tutoring like this standardized test that like 7th and 8th graders would take to apply to boarding schools called the SSAT. And there's a lot of schools in New York that go K to 8, and so kids have to apply out. And there's just this huge like private school community on the Upper East Side where everyone takes that test, and the parents take it as seriously as the SAT for college. So they'll pay anything. And I was getting referred from one client to the next, being like, we have a tutor. He's this Harvard lacrosse bro who like our kid is obsessed with and is tutoring the test. Like every other tutor was like some artsy fartsy old woman, who was like a poet on the side and trying to support their poetry.
Yeah,
but
slam poetry.
Yeah. And meanwhile, I'd come over and like bro it up. We'd hit the pantry after school, eat a bunch of grapes, Capri Suns, and then we'd get to the vocab list. And it was awesome. It was like the best job in the world, Dunkaroos, just being a kid again. And I got to a point where I was charging $300 an hour for that.
Oh my goodness!
How many clients you have?
I had a wait list. So
that is fucking.
I had a wait list so long that I actually had to hire friends of mine who were like trying to be actors or musicians or comedians or whatever, and teach them how to tutor the test. And then I would assign them to students, and I would take a cut of what they were making. And then I actually just started my own company. Tutoring company.
You should have just kept doing this.
Well, that was a kind of a hard call, but it was always in my mind, like, I'm going to do this as a means to an end until I can theoretically support myself in comedy.
Right.
But it was a great job. I made like $145,000 a year, and I didn't have to work in the summer, like the whole summer. Didn't work. And
like the teacher's dream.
Yeah, it was fucking awesome. And just worked like 4 to like 8 o'clock. And then I would hit like, 3 kids in a short radius. I would schedule them if they like lived within a block of each other. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then I would go do stand-up after that and do like, shitty open mics.
And you get to sleep in because the work day doesn't start till 4.
Yeah, I tried to keep my shit together and take myself seriously. Like it was hard. I mean, in the absence of I could have slept till noon, but that would have driven me crazy. So I did that, and then I finally found, I saw a thing for the Barstool Idol. They were like, we're looking for talent. And this was still kind of like in a young phase of the company.
Now, did you know about him before you found
Yeah,
this?
I'd been a fan. I loved the writing. I liked reading Kevin and Big Cat, Dave. I loved reading those blogs. And
what year was this?
This would have been like end of 2017 is when I saw the thing, I think. And then maybe it was end of 2016. And then in like January of 2017, I had sent in a stand-up tape replying to the email, and they were like, yep, you can come audition. So, because apparently there were like 2,000 emails that they got, and 95% of them were like, listen, I don't have any experience, but I'm a huge Barstool fan.
Yeah.
I'll do whatever it takes. I'll learn what I have to do. And then like a handful were like, here's some relatively related work that I've done that might lend itself to this job. So because I sent a stand-up tape, I don't even know if they watched it, but they were like, oh, he's an actual comedian. Sure. And I went in and did stand-up, which was like probably a mistake because Dave hates stand-up. But I was very lucky that this guy who went before me also did stand-up and bombed so hard that just by contrast, I looked a lot better. And so then I went up and they were like, yeah, you were better. So, okay. And then they passed me into the Hell Week thing where they chose, I think, 10 people to come compete like it was The Apprentice, and we had to come to the office every day, Monday to Friday, and at the end do a bunch of challenges type shit, write a blog, go sell merch, whatever, and make a video. And then on the final day, Dave would fire someone at the end of every day on Facebook Live.
On Facebook Live.
And there'd be like, 10,000 people watching, which it doesn't sound like a lot now, but at that time,
that's a big number.
I'd never
That's
had
a big
anybody watching me do anything. Nobody knew who I was. And so like all of a sudden my friends are tuning in, like family members, and I'm just inching forward. And as the tasks became more like talent oriented instead of just like stupid shit, I was able to actually show that I could write and that I could make funny videos and this and that. And I ended up winning that whole thing, got like a trial contract for 6 months. Within 2 months, they had bumped me up to full time. And then I was there for 2.5 years, and then I got fired. And then I was away for 3 years, and then I got hired back. And now here we are. It's quite a saga.
I want to ask why you got fired, but I feel like that's.
Do you not know that story?
No, I do.
Yeah,
I told you, I'm a head in the
tell that
sand
story.
guy. I'm a head in the sand
There's
guy.
another piece that I
go to Barstool. I'm like, hey, how's everybody doing? And I leave.
There's another piece of this that
there's like a doctor thing in there.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say. Do you know about that?
Yeah, you told me about it. You have to tell us.
I mean, this is
Talk to me like you're meeting me for the first time.
I feel bad because I want to shoot the shit with you guys, but these stories are a little long.
That's okay. That's why we're here, bro.
This is the show.
Okay,
You're the guest. We're highlighting you.
fair enough, but
Yeah.
I watch your guys' show and I love it, and I love the way you guys just shoot the shit with people. So I feel I'll tell you as quickly as I can.
Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna
tell the story.
I'm
You're gonna
not
do what we
great.
say.
Yeah.
I'm
This
not
is our
great
show.
at telling stories quickly. I'm pretty long-winded, so I apologize for that. It's just
We can talk Fox Sports drama in a little bit, but tell the story.
Perfect. Yes. So on day 3 of the Barstool Hell Week thing, I had a surgery. I mentioned the getting beaten up by the guy.
Yeah, the lobster man,
Yeah.
which you kind of really brushed over because Will knew what it was, and you're like, yeah, that sucked. And then you talk about cocaine in your nose.
Yes. So the short story of that is that I was in Portland, Maine when I was a sophomore in college, home for Christmas, went out with some buddies. The bars closed. We were pretty banged up. Went to the pizza place in the Old Port, filed into a booth. I saw some guys that I used to play sports against at a rival school, but who I was friendly with. We'd like played travel sports together. And I went over to say hi to them and was sitting with them for like 5 minutes. One of them saw these 2 girls come in. They were like screaming at each other, almost fighting. And he chirped them. And then one of their boyfriends came over and was like, that's my girlfriend. And he said something like, keep your dogs on a leash or something insane. Something insane. And then the big guy punched him in the face and broke his nose. And his nose exploded all over the pizza. I swear to God, he was pooling blood all over the pie, which we wanted. And then they all started getting out of the booth to like fight. And I was like, am I part of this? Like, what the fuck? And then I was like trying to settle it down, but then we got pushed outside. And then one of the guys from his team just like knew what he was doing.
He knew what he was doing.
Kicked me in the face with like Timberland boots on. And knocked me to the ground, and he got over my back and just grabbed my coat collar. And I'm not even kidding you. He's saddled me. Like I'm facing that way, and he's behind me facing the same way with my coat collar, bringing me to the right height like it's T-ball, and just swinging around my face. And I'm just on all fours, being like, "Oh no, I can't do anything. This is terrible."
Bringing me to the right height like
probably hit me 9 times. I broke my orbital bone. I had hairline fractures in my gums. My nose was broken, as I said, and obviously a concussion. And dude, it was so one-sided that he just got off and like helped me up and was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like,
the fuck up.
I swear to God.
He asked you if you're okay.
Yeah. He asked me if I was okay, and I had this idea for a couple of years that like at some point as a man you needed to get into a fist fight, and that you had to earn your stripes and like prove yourself as a man. And I was stoked that I had found one, had taken my punches, and, you know, live to like keep moving forward. So I actually dapped the guy up.
Oh, shut the fuck
I
up.
swear to God. And by the way, I've told this story before. I told it on Matt and Shane's, and I'm telling it here. And if I ever did Rogan, I'd want to tell it on there, because I have been looking for this guy for fucking years. And I'm hopeful that at some point he'll hear me tell this story. We were at was it Bill's Pizza in the Old Port? I think it's on Commercial or Exchange Street. Now it's out of business. It was December 23rd, 2 nights before Christmas. There was a ton of snow coming down. And I feel like he would have to remember this. And if you were that guy, we should reconnect. Not to fight, just to tell the story, because I feel like I have the story right, but I'm like, it was obviously it's a little hazy. But he helped me up. We dapped it up. They got into a cab. They left because someone had pulled the fire alarm to summon the police. And I actually remember it was the guy who owned the place, or like one of the pizza people, pulled the fire alarm and yelled, "The police are on their way." And I was like, "Doesn't that summon the firemen?" And nobody laughed. Just foreshadowing of the weak comedian I would be for years. Of the long road ahead. And so anyway, so then we took that guy who'd had his nose broken to the hospital, and then we went back to my buddy's place. And I was hurt, but I was very drunk. So like I just was like spitting out a lot of blood, but like I didn't think, for some reason, I didn't think I needed to go to the hospital. I went to bed and I woke up and I had swallowed so much blood through my own septum that I was very nauseous. And I got up at like 6 a.m., raced to the toilet and threw up all this blood.
Oh,
because your body cannot digest blood. Did you know that?
No.
It's an interesting like scientific trigger for your stomach, where if it senses that there's blood pooling, it thinks that you have internal bleeding or some kind of really bad problem, and it will alert you of this by making you nauseous. This is what I was told. So I threw up all that blood, and then I went home, walked in the door on Christmas Eve at 7 a.m., greeted by our 2, yellow labs, and then my mom, who's making Christmas cookies, and my face looks like beef carpaccio. And she had to take me to get emergency dental surgery on Christmas Eve. And so that was like, and then obviously, okay, so years later.
so that's how you got fired
Well,
from
no.
Barstool.
No.
Years later, I finally have the surgery to get my nose corrected from that moment. And that moment happened in 2009, the winter of 2009. And it wasn't until 2016 that I finally was like, I need to get this fixed. And I went in to get I saw an ear, nose, throat person. And he was like, well, we also see that you have polyps on your vocal cords, because they had done a x-ray or whatever, because I was very hoarse from performing all the time. And like,
is this the visit on day 3 of that?
No, that visit happened weeks before.
Okay.
I had done this. I ended up doing that surgery in like I think early December, and then the audition for Barstool Idol was in January, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And But even before the surgery, I went in and had, they told me, they were like, we can fix the polyps. We can scrape those off the vocal cords with a throat surgeon, and then under the same anesthesia, do the nose. So you can kind of just kill 2 birds with 1 stone if you want. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I get the surgery. I recover from that. I go into Barstool Idol. All is well. On that Wednesday of Barstool Idol, I get a call from the actual doctor, a voicemail, not even like his assistant. And he's like, "Hi, Francis, it's Dr. Wu, Peak Wu at Mount Sinai." And he was like, "I need to see you immediately. This is really important. Like, please come to the office when you can."
No
like,
shit. You know the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's juicy.
Yeah, and he's like, he didn't tell me why, and I was like, what the fuck? Okay. So I called his assistant, and she was like, yeah, come. I was like, do I need to make an appointment? She was like, just come now. So I'm in the Barstool office. It's day 3. I'm down to like one of 5 or 6 remaining people. So I just sneak out and I take the subway up to Mount Sinai, which is all the way uptown, almost in Harlem. I go in, I see them, and they were like, okay, unfortunately, when you take something out of your body, as you guys probably know, I think they automatically biopsy it just to like test whatever it is. And they were like, we thought we had removed polyps from your vocal cords, but they are showing signs of cancerous malignancies, and we think that they are cancerous tumors.
No shit.
And we need to start doing some testing now to see if it's like metastasized and spread. And that is our diagnosis. We're really sorry. I was like, holy fuck. What? And then I had to get in a cab to go back to Barstool, at which point I called my parents and told them I had just been told I have cancer.
Yeah.
I'm crying. I'm freaked out. The fucking Barstool Idol was already like a huge pressure cooker, crazy thing. And I get to the office. I'm very shaken from this news. And I have to go in. I go up the stairs, and Kevin Clancy is like, where have you been? You're supposed to be doing this test segment on KFC radio right now. And I'm like, fuck, okay. So I go in. They hustle me in. They sit me down. And they're like, crazy week, right? Like, how's your week been? And I'm like, not great, to be honest with you. And I'm like, I don't really know what to say. Like, I'm kind of freaking out right now. And I swear to God, you can watch this. Kevin goes, you're not about to tell me you have cancer, are you? Word for word. He says that. And I was like, yeah, kinda. And he was like, what? And then I told him what had just happened.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have time to like prepare. I didn't have time to be like,
Did
should
they know
I
you
bring
had
this
left to
forward?
Go to the, doctor visit?
No. I told him, I think I told him in the show. I didn't know what to do about it.
Yeah, it's gotta be terrifying.
And, you know, I'm 26, 27. And then that comes out and becomes part of the show. And I end up winning the show. And I at this point, like, I do what any comedian does, and I start making like jokes about it. And like my final video on the final day was like this song I wrote and performed in the subway to raise money for cancer treatment, which was called like "Hold Me Closer, I've Got Cancer." I did like a mashup of like famous songs but riffing on this.
Yeah.
And it was funny, and I ended up winning the show, and I got the job. And then I was working there for like whatever 2 or 3 weeks. And at this time, all this time, they had sent the biopsy samples out to California to get like further testing done. We had called a radiologist in Maine who was like friends with my family to get him involved and be like, what the fuck is going on here? Start figuring out options, things like that. And I think it was like 2 weeks in, I get a call on a Friday in the afternoon. You know, office is like chilling out, and it's the assistant, and she goes, okay, we have great news. We just did DNA test. The DNA testing came back from the autopsy, the biopsy that we did, and the samples that we had taken out that showed cancerous malignancies turned out to be female. And then we found the samples that we had swapped in the lab with yours, retested yours, and yours were fine.
This
They
poor
got
woman.
the lab
Dude.
results wrong.
They
Bro.
switched my tests in the lab.
Yeah, could you imagine the woman?
Think of this. She either had cancer, got my test results, and was like, miraculously, you're cured, or didn't know she had cancer and found out like 3 or 4 weeks later than she should have because of this. Because people were like, Francis, you should sue the hospital. I'm like, I'm not going to sue a hospital for telling me I don't have cancer. That woman has a case.
Yeah,
Right.
she should probably do something. That is fucking nuts.
So I know
How
immediately.
crazy is that
Yeah.
story, bro?
I know
the story is
immediately.
insane.
I know immediately, because I'm a fan of Barstool, how this is going to go.
Oh yeah.
The narrative is going to be this ginger bitch faked
cancer to
cancer
win.
to get a job at Barstool, which, I'm not kidding you, Nate had written the blog before I was off the phone with the medical assistant. Ginger Francis faked cancer to get a job at Barstool. And that becomes the narrative. And I then had to write a counter blog where I had them fax me the biopsy results that show the like medical language and all the stuff proving like cancerous malignancies, all this, being like telling my side of the story. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's far funnier to think that I would have faked cancer like a fucking psycho to get a job at Barstool. Dave has me on Barstool Radio. We only had one Barstool Radio show back then on Sirius XM. And Big Cat comes in, and it's like all the heavy hitters, and they are just skewering me for faking cancer, like to get a job at Barstool. And I'm so terrified. I'm like 2 weeks into the job. I don't have any confidence. I'm just like walking on eggshells. I don't have any understanding of like the exposure and the reach of Barstool. And all of a sudden, I am the main storyline of the week.
God damn.
And freaking out. The more I try to be like, no, I didn't fake cancer. I see. Everyone's like, yeah, that's what a psycho would say. The number one, like, this
is the worst company ever to fake cancer with.
For like 2 years after that, if you would Google my name, put Francis Ellis into the search bar at Google, the next words that would populate were Francis Ellis fakes cancer. Wasn't like Francis Ellis, Barstool Sports, Francis Ellis, Harvard lacrosse graduate, which it had been. And then I would ask all my friends to re-Google that to try to bump fake cancer down off the list. But it turns out a lot more people are interested in reading about faking cancer than my Go Crimson stats.
Go Crimson
6 ground balls against Canisius in 2007. So anyway, so that was just like the narrative. And then like 2 weeks later, I ended up asking out a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model after we did a segment, and that got out and got to Dave, and he fucking made a mess of that, made a whole scene of that, which now it's like, okay, he faked cancer. He's asking out girls that are 10 leagues out of his league. This guy really is a psycho. And then it just became that I was an actual psychopath. And that was when it took me like a year to stop fighting that and actually be like, yes,
I'm a psychopath.
I'm a psycho.
Yeah.
You want the psycho?
So you got bullied
psycho.
into having psychotic tendencies.
It was more like something clicked where taking the reins of the narrative myself, be rabbiting it a little bit, all of a sudden launched my tone. I found like tone at Barstool, which was what led me to start writing longer blogs that were more personal. Because up to that point, everyone was just kind of like, here's a story from the internet. Here's my 2-paragraph take on it. That's blogging at Barstool. And then it was a year in, and over Christmas break, we had, a week and a half off, and I stayed in the city to do stand up, and randomly 3 days in a row, I ran into Dave. One day we were sitting next to each other at a barber shop getting our hair cut, just randomly. The next day was at a sports bar. We were like adjacent tables. And then the next day, like at a bar at night. So I wrote a blog titled, I Spent My Christmas Break Becoming Best Friends with Dave Portnoy. And our exchanges in those moments were no more than 10 words. Hey, Dave, how are you? Good. Good to see you. Happy holidays. That was it. And then I wrote 2,000 words extrapolating this into a friendship completely imagined from my side, but indicating how little we'd actually corresponding, but what I thought Dave's words meant, even though he said so few. And this was a light bulb moment for me at Barstool. And I started following that, just writing like personal blogs, kind of where I would imaginatively and very neurotically extend small exchanges or like interactions with coworkers into a long piece. And that is kind of what I do to this day.